Just moments ago, the stock market opened for the first time in 2020, hot off its strongest showing in the last 6 years. A soaring stock market, low unemployment, and big job growth. Those are the talking points we have heard over and over from the president as he paints the economy as one of his very biggest wins. But those numbers don't tell the whole story. They fail to include the tax cuts that benefited major companies, but not the American worker. A massive chunk of the population who doesn't invest in the stock market, and Americans across the country who need to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Joining me now to discuss, Ben White, chief economic correspondent for Politico, and Jeremy Peters back with me. Jeremy, in your latest piece, you write about how Democrats and Republicans are both using the economy to connect to voters. Talk about that.
Right. Trump likes to say, I deserve credit for all of this, and if you elect one of those awful socialist Democrats, this is all going to come crashing down. What the Democrats are saying is, hold on a second. The president might be right about the stock market, but how many of you in the audience here in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, wherever, actually feel like your lives have improved dramatically? Your bottom lines are better than they were 4 years ago. And I think what I found in my reporting and talking to a lot of people is they feel like their lives are a little better, right? Like things are good enough. They're not great. And I think that's going to be one of the more interesting dynamics to play out as people factor in the economy into their vote is, am I willing to take a risk on a Democrat and kind of throw things up in the air and see kind of what happens here with the economy, or are things just good enough that I want to keep them the way they are? At least that's how I hear these swing voters, people who voted for Trump in 2016 but might be open to voting for someone else, talk.
But Ben, the people who really elected President Trump were the angry Americans who said the economy isn't working for me. Yeah. What happens to those angry Americans now? Where do they go when the president is saying the economy is killing it, the tax cuts are going to be rolling down to you, when they didn't?
They didn't roll down. I mean, if you look at any of the numbers, they obviously accrued to capital and to the wealthy and not to labor. You look at the gains in income, they've gone to the top and not to the bottom. And I think
has his base flipped? Because he didn't have those wealthy voters in 2016.
Yeah.
He had the angry ones.
It may flip some. We talked about this off air. There are wealthy people who want to stay wealthy and like their tax cuts and will vote for Trump. But I think, where Trump has a problem in 2020 in the economy is in the states we always talk about, but particularly Michigan and Pennsylvania. If you look at the unemployment rate in those states, it's going up. It's not going down. It's higher than the national average. The manufacturing jobs that Trump promised to create in those states, the way he was going to reshore all these industries and make America great again in the manufacturing Midwest, that just hasn't happened. The numbers don't bear it out. And in terms of the tax cuts, even though most Americans did get some tax cut, it's very small, not noticeable in your paycheck unless you have an enormous amount of money, in which case you see it and your capital gains rates go down. Big problem for Trump is the economy is okay. It's not great. Won't overcome his negatives. Not good enough where he needs it to be, particularly Pennsylvania, Michigan. That's the problem for Trump in 2020.
Is income inequality going to be a focus? If you think about middle-class Americans who are marginally doing better versus the richest workers who are doing a whole lot better, how is the president going to play this? Because income inequality was really, I can't even believe I'm saying it was good. Income inequality is what the president played on to get elected.
Exactly. And he doesn't have an answer for that. The campaign does not have an answer for how they are going to address that glaring hypocrisy, right? This president who's pursued policies, regulatory cuts that have disproportionately benefited the wealthiest and the largest corporations. And he has a hard time making the case that he is the president of the working man, the forgotten man, middle America, this hollowed out middle class, while pursuing and signing off on these policies that don't help those people. But the question is whether or not those voters care. Right. Like I said, if they think that things are good enough for them, they're probably not going to vote for a Democrat. But I do know that we were talking about Mike Bloomberg in the last block and some of the research that he and other Democrats have done into Trump's vulnerabilities. There's a soft spot there. Yeah. If they can convince voters that Trump did not live up to his promises on the economy, that especially Trump sold them out in pursuing policies that benefit not them, but the wealthy donors that he claimed he didn't need, he didn't want anything to do with, that could be a problem for him.
Then where do the voters go who said, I want to break the system, I'm tired of the establishment? They voted for the president.
Right.
The president has only deepened the establishment. If their choice is a Joe Biden or a Mike Bloomberg, where does that angry voter go?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think it could go to Joe Biden. He's not exactly the guy who's going to break the status quo. He's been, was in the White House for 8 years with Barack Obama, but he's the guy, if you're going to appeal to the forgotten voter, he's probably the guy who can do it the best, because Trump's going to play grievance politics in those states, because he can't necessarily win on the economy, but he can. He has invoked other issues, immigration, race. If somebody is going to get those voters back in the industrial Midwest, Biden probably is the best shot.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.